a tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith-Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts into a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC. That is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweight.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on Sport.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Thanks for joining in for this midweek edition of the show. Well, the NBA's play-in games have begun. We will recap what happened last night. No huge surprises. Of course, a couple of games tonight. And then the NBA playoffs officially begin on Saturday. So stay with us here on the grid for that. We'll break it all down for you. Also, we will talk to Simon Applebaum of the podcast tomorrow will be televised. Just how many people were streaming and watching live the Masters on Sunday. Some incredible numbers coming in. We'll tell you all about that as well. Also, prime time, of course, for the Premier League and Champions League in soccer. Kyle Bonn will join us courtesy of Sporting News as well. So those are just some of the stories that we're following here on the show today. Stick with us throughout. Let's begin and get into the latest in the NBA's play-in games. And good news for the NBA because Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler get their win last night. The Warriors beat the Grizzlies 121-116. They did not cover the spread, but they did win the game. And the reason why they won, folks, he's back again. Playoff Jimmy. Wow. Jimmy Butler, in his first playoff game, does this even count as a playoff game? I don't know. In his first play-in game ever, 38 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. He and Steph Curry, who added 37 points, went off in their win yesterday. We'll also have to keep an eye on Ja Morant, who rolled his ankle and could potentially maybe miss some time. We will see, of course, as they have to play another play-in game as well. But after the game, a very happy Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry talking about just what made that game go to get the win.
We talked about it, and it's always play basketball the right way, shoot the ball when you're open, attack, get into the paint, get to the free throw line, and pass it to the open guy. So no matter who's guarding me, I'm always going to play the exact same way.
Did you figure that scheme, though, would lead to, you getting to the rim a lot and, scoring as much as you did?
Yes and no. I feel like I have the opportunity here to pick my spots incredibly well, and they're always looking to get me the ball in my spots where I can be aggressive and put the ball in the basket or make the right play for the next individual. So we ran a couple sets for me to do that, and then Steph did all the other stuff.
I don't know exactly what point in the year it was when we were below 500, and after a 12-3 start, emotional roller coaster of the season, for us to be able to climb our way back into relevancy and then, trick off a couple opportunities to get it done within the 82. It just came down to, having one game where we just get a win however we could, and thankfully it happened. And now with some clarity on, who we're playing in the playoff series, great Houston team that's had an amazing year. For us, just a sense of relief that we have something to look forward to now, and I'm excited about the challenge.
And Golden State will take on Houston Sunday. And don't look now, but the Warriors are favored in Houston in Game 1, -1.5 over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, so Hawks and Magic also went at it last night. This was a snoozer. The Magic annihilated the Atlanta Hawks last night. My gosh, 120-95. Pablo Banchero had 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. Trae Young had a big game. He had 28 points. They just couldn't get any three-pointers knocked down in this one. Needless to say, the Magic, with the win, they have the honor of playing the Boston Celtics in the first round. And by the way, that's the biggest line thus far in the first weekend of the NBA playoffs. Boston -14.5 going into the weekend in that game. Needless to say, Jamal Mosley says his team has played big games before, so he wasn't surprised they showed up last night.
Because we've been there before. I think we've been in these situations in the close games at home. Our ability to get the stops and get the runs at the right time was very big for us. But you saw the group come together on the court when they went on the run. I think we had 6-1 fouls in that third quarter. But our ability to not let that rattle us and then dig in on the defensive end and get out and get some easy baskets, now that created the momentum. Our crowd got into it, and that just propelled us.
Jamal, what kind of impact did Cole Anthony have on tonight's game, and what kind of season has it been for him?
It's been up and down for him. 26 points tonight, but just his energy, his spark, his juice, what he provides for this team coming off that bench. He plays fearlessly, and that's how we need him to continue to play. It's been up and down because there's been moments when, we talked about it early in the year, he was out of the rotation, and then he found a way. The next time down, he walks himself back in and helps us win the Miami game. So that's just who he is. His resiliency, his toughness, his spark that he gives this team off the bench is just, it's what we need.
It's right now what the Magic needs. They'll need a lot more to beat Boston, that's for sure. Meanwhile, tonight, the NBA play-in games continue. Miami takes on Chicago with the Heat, a slight underdog in that one. And the Sacramento Kings take on the Dallas Mavericks. That's the late game tonight. Meanwhile, the Milwaukee Bucks will be without Damian Lillard in Game 1 of their NBA playoff matchup against the Indiana Pacers. He's made good progress with the blood clot that he was diagnosed with, but it looks like he's going to miss at least one game, maybe two. We'll keep an eye on that as we head into the weekend. The state of Tennessee does not want to see the sport event contract gaming enabled anytime soon. And of course, we've been talking about this a ton. A lot of different companies have tried to sort of skirt the idea that they are sports betting companies and use the different wording and use sport event contracts as a possibility to get by it. Companies like Kalshi, Robinhood, Crypto.com have all enacted these and put on their apps, and Tennessee Sports Gaming says no go. In fact, Mary Beth Thomas, the executive director of the Tennessee State Committee, says that we believe that these sport event contracts and wagers are under the act and being offered in violation of Tennessee law and regulations. This has been the big sports betting story of the year, these prediction markets and sports event contracts. Some states say they're okay. Some say they do not. Tennessee is the next to say, gotta stop. All right, what is the future of the Miami Dolphins at this point? Remains to be seen as they enter the NFL draft coming up next week. It looks like they'll be parting ways with all-pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey. In fact, it looks like they are exploring trade options for the former Pro Bowler. Chris Greer, the general manager of the Miami Dolphins, says it potentially is time to move on and look in a different direction.
So really, after a couple of weeks of discussions between ourselves internally and Jalen and his representation, we decided that it was probably in the best interest for all parties to move forward. So I will say these decisions aren't done quickly, and they're not taken lightly because we spent a lot of time this offseason working through this, talking through things. At the end of the day, Jalen did not ask for a trade, so we went through the process and just felt that after numerous conversations and then talking last week with Jalen and his agent, that it was best to move forward and it was best interest of the Miami Dolphins and for Jalen Ramsey.
NFL draft 1 week for tomorrow, from tomorrow night. All right, Chicago Cubs sent down top prospect Matt Shaw, had a tough start to the season, but they'll take a win last night any day of the week over the San Diego Padres. 2-1 the final, a triple in the 10th inning. The Cubs finally take care of the San Diego Padres, who have been unbeatable at home. Meanwhile, the Rockies can't win any games at all. They lose again to the Dodgers. Will Smith, 3-run home run, ends up picking up the win there. Also for the Philadelphia Phillies, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, they go deep. They win 6-4 over the Giants. Also, somebody finally found a way to beat Atlanta's Spencer Schwellenbach. The Blue Jays take care of the Atlanta Braves by a final of 6-3. Also, the Cleveland Guardians get a nice performance from their pitcher, Logan Allen. They end up winning by a final score of 6-3 in this game. Allen pitches 5 2/3 innings and gets the win against the Baltimore Orioles. Texas is now 7-1 at home. Tyler Molly's had a great start to his season. 9 strikeouts in 6 innings. He gets the win. Yankees beat the Royals 4-2 behind Max Fried, 6 2/3, 7 strikeouts. And wouldn't you know, Alex Bregman comes up very big yesterday in their win against Tampa Bay. 5 for 5, 2 home runs. They beat the Rays 7-4. Kyle Bonn of Sporting News is up next.
Who else? Who can maybe provide a test? Who can maybe be a challenger and a contender elsewhere around the Eastern Conference?
Top 2 is going to be a runaway. But I guess if I had to choose, Ben, it's going to be the Knicks. At least they have the talent to somehow upset teams that are better than them, but they can't in the regular season. Maybe it changes in the playoffs.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwellenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts into a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
They have already decided, it would appear to me, from what you're telling me, that they're satisfied with the quarterback room as it stands now.
Shedeur Sanders does not have the value to go at number 3. I know they need a quarterback. It's about this season with Russell Wilson, okay? No question he's going to be the starter. Winston will back him up. But the future they can get next year.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Kyle Bonn of Sporting News ready to break down everything happening in soccer, a preview of the Champions League today, a recap of yesterday, and we'll dive right in. Kyle, great to have you back here on NewsWire. All right, so some really tight games being played in the Champions League, Barcelona, PSG, big wins a couple of weeks ago, smaller wins, I guess, yesterday, and it just, I guess, shows you, Kyle, that expect the unexpected in the Champions League this year.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. You know, the big wins from the first leg were really put to the test yesterday for both Barcelona and PSG. It was a real struggle for both of them. This is the classic situation of when a loss is a win, right? So they lost the game. Both of them lost the second leg yesterday, but ended up advancing anyways because of the aggregate score lines. So both of them leaning heavily on their first leg wins, which you don't really want to do that when you come into this situation. You want to lock it down and solidify your spot pretty handily. It goes to show you when you're betting on Champions League games, especially later in the competition, in the knockout stage, road games in the Champions League are just flat out difficult. It doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't matter the opponent. I mean, Borussia Dortmund are in like 8th in the Bundesliga. They're having a really, really tough year, and they put Barcelona on the ropes. Aston Villa, you know, they've had a pretty good season in the Premier League, but still they're 6th or 7th in the table, and they put PSG on the ropes. So it doesn't matter who your opponent is, what the situation, the aggregate, whatever. Road games in the Champions League are difficult. And I think now you look at it moving forward, you go to today, Arsenal have to contest one against Real Madrid.
Yeah, so let's get into that because, you know, obviously you got really good defense on one team and, you know, maybe not as much on another. Real Madrid, I think very obviously has to be the favorite here. But Kyle, the question is, will this be a close enough game? I mean, the odds makers don't usually give you plus 250 at a tie. That's sort of telling me that this could be 1-1, 2-2, something along those lines. How do you see this one playing out later today?
Yeah, this is a really tough one, especially from a betting perspective, because Real Madrid are down 3-0 on aggregate. So they have to bring the aggregate scoreline back if they want to qualify for the semifinals. So they really need to have an explosive game. So all the odds are in favor of Real Madrid trying to bring the scoreline back. Now, in what manner they'll do that, it's hard to tell. Whether they'll shut it up early and then try to open it up late and score a bunch. They'll probably come out guns blazing and try to get one or two early and then settle the game down and then hit for a couple late is my guess. But when you're looking at this from a betting perspective, it's really difficult because if you go with the shots total, the Real Madrid shots odds are juiced to hell. It's impossible to get any opening there because people expect Real Madrid to have a ton of shots on goal. They're going to try and bring this game back level. Yeah. But the Gunners have one of the best defenses in Europe. It's not the best. They've lost Gabriel to an injury for the rest of the season, one of their two center backs. So they are a little bit weakened in that sense. Jacob Kiwior is not nearly as good. But they're still very, very good. It's what I like is the over is somehow not as skewed as the shots total. So I really like the over. You can get over 3 goals here. If you, instead of playing the half goal, play the even goal at 3.0, you can get it at about even money. I really like that because if Real Madrid go for it and get a couple and don't quite, you know, make it a crazy game, you still have that safety net of a push. Whereas if they really, you know, mess it up and get a couple early, and now Arsenal have to get one themselves, which I think they can, now you're in good shape. So I think that's the best way to play this is play the over on the 3.0 goal line.
Now, let's talk about some of this, you know, controversy over the weekend with Kylian Mbappe, one of the best players, you know, ever to play. You know, I saw some of the highlights here of the reason why he was suspended for what they're calling a tackle, I guess is what it's called in soccer. Why was the suspension reduced? Do you think that that was warranted?
No, is the simple answer. I do not. Why? I can't explain. I have no idea why. It's a terrible, terrible tackle. And he comes flying in and stamps down on the opponent's leg. It's what they call in soccer a leg breaking tackle. Like you can break someone's leg doing this, which is why it's warranting a red card. La Liga has reduced his suspension, which has everyone up in arms because theoretically, if he had his 3-game suspension, you look at their fixture list and they have 2 league games and then the Copa del Rey final against Barcelona, known as El Clasico. But he would not have been suspended for that El Clasico anyways, even under the regular 3-game suspension, which comes with a straight red card. So I think that's where a lot of people are getting confused. League suspensions only apply to the Copa del Rey, which is the domestic cup competition, if you get a suspension of 4 games or more. So because the red card comes with a traditional 3-game suspension, the only way he would have been suspended for this Copa del Rey final was if the Spanish Federation had increased his suspension and added additional games for excessive violent conduct, which does happen sometimes, but in this situation, it was reduced, and everyone looked at the schedule and said, "Oh my God, they're reducing the suspension so he can play in El Clasico," and that's not really what's happening here. But it is weird and odd, anyways. I don't know why they would have reduced his suspension. It's a really bad tackle, and he should have gotten the regular requisite 3 games for a straight red card.
All right, let's close out with the game today. Inter against Bayern Munich. My gosh, this seems like a really tough betting matchup here. Inter plus 160, Bayern Munich plus 150. My gosh, I don't know that I've even seen a line like this in the Champions League in a while. So is this too close to call? Is there a position you like on this one?
So Inter come into this game up a goal on aggregate. They won 2-1 at Bayern. And now they get to come home protecting an aggregate lead. It's a really interesting matchup because you have Inter, who are the best defensive team in Europe. They've conceded 3 goals all competition. And then you have Bayern Munich, who are one of the best attacking teams in Europe, but they are missing their best player in Jamal Musiala. Now, statistically, it didn't look like it mattered in the first leg, but it's going to matter, and I think Inter come away with this one. You can get some good numbers on the under here.
All right, thanks for coming on, Kyle. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with the Sports Grid Sound Off. Don't go away.
Who else? Who can maybe provide a test? Who can maybe be a challenger and a contender elsewhere around the Eastern Conference?
Top 2 is going to be a runaway. But I guess if I had to choose, Ben, it's going to be the Knicks. At least they have the talent to somehow upset teams that are better than them, but they can't in the regular season. Maybe it changes in the playoffs.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith-Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts into a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
They have already decided, it would appear to me, from what you're telling me, that they're satisfied with the quarterback room as it stands now.
Shedeur Sanders does not have the value to go at number 3. I know they need a quarterback. It's about this season with Russell Wilson, okay? No question he's going to be the starter. Winston will back him up. But the future they can get next year.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. We'll get into a preview of the Bucks and Pacers. Also see how the Knicks feel about their game against the Pistons this weekend. And could there be an NBA coach potentially on the hot seat? Let's hit it. Time for the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, we begin with maybe a potential coach that could be on the hot seat. Of course, our coach, Coach James Young, who appears every single week on Betting Above the Rim, had a special guest this past week, and it was Michelle Beadle of FanDuel, talking about a potential situation that could be developing on one team in the Eastern Conference. We'll see if there is a future coaching change to be made with a team that did not make the NBA playoffs. Take a listen.
There is a hot seat you think maybe coming up not too far from me down in the city of Brotherly Love. Tell me what you thought. Who could be on the hot seat next year in the NBA?
I mean, it's crazy to say, and I realize that they've had their exit interviews out in Philadelphia and that Daryl Morey sat alongside Nick Nurse and talked about really his failings as well, which I respect. You can't just go up there and kind of BS. You got to give them something. And I know they said that he and Nurse are coming back. But are they? I mean, to me, the seat is hot. And again, I don't blame Nick Nurse. We obviously know that Nick Nurse can coach. He's coached himself to a ring. But you can't do a lot when the big chunk of your roster is sitting in street clothes or is having surgery, or you waste months and months of a season knowing in the backs of everyone's mind that Joel Embiid's going to need some sort of a procedure, and you wait until now to finally do it, and now you've added on to the time for rehab. So to me, Nick Nurse, hot seat.
Could be Nick Nurse. We've already seen several coaches in the NBA fired, and certainly Mike Malone and some others will definitely be watching to see whether or not that job does open up. Meanwhile, Rick Carlisle, no stranger to the coaching hot seat, of course, several stops in the NBA, getting ready for a really big game coming up this weekend against the Milwaukee Bucks. And certainly knows that at 1 o'clock Eastern, once they tip off, it's going to be a very tough battle in this playoff series against Milwaukee. Here's Carlisle.
Just got to have your guard up. It's a protect your turf mentality, and it's unending. So we've got to get that edge this week, headed into Saturday. They're a tough matchup. They're really, really difficult. They've won 8 in a row without Lillard. Giannis is, he's not only scoring 30, but he's getting 12 or 13 assists a game in the last several games. And so there's a lot of problems to deal with.
Well, I hope it translates really well. I guess I'll say that. I think we were 3-1, and the one we lost was an incredible shot by Halliburton. And then the non-foul that they called a foul also on Giannis. But we'll move on from that. But it's the same themes. Transition. We have to get back. We got to take care of the ball. Last year, and Indiana's not a great offensive rebounding team, but last year they crushed us on the glass. So that's a focal point going in the series.
Meanwhile, the New York Knicks are big favorites against the Detroit Pistons to advance to the next round, but you never know what could happen in an NBA playoff series. Karl Anthony Towns meeting with the media yesterday using a former boxer as a reference to what could potentially happen if things don't go exactly their way.
Execute at a high level, offensively, defensively, go in with a game plan. It's like boxing. What Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched. So just staying disciplined throughout all the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of the series. Just staying disciplined and executing at a high level gives us the best chance to win. I just think that our team has done a great job all year of finding different ways to win. You don't get 50 wins winning the same exact way every single night, 51 especially. So, just continuing to utilize that experience, utilize the ebbs and flows of the regular season that we went through, and kind of cash in on that experience now in the postseason. We just got to, like I said, execute. It's all about that at the end of the day, because every game is not gonna be double-digit win. It's gonna be close games. You expect them. So it's about the execution. It's about that one play, maybe in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, that changes the game.
When the Knicks and Pistons used to play in the 80s, it actually was about punching somebody in the mouth. Hopefully that does not happen in this weekend. Coming up in their first round series. All right, coming up next, Pat Evans joins us from Legal Sports Report. Could tax rates be on the rise in North Carolina? Pat will weigh in next. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweight.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It's a special Wednesday here on NewsWire as we have Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. If you watched the show Monday, you may have heard Pat and I kidding around about the green jacket that was won by Rory McIlroy at the Masters. I'm sure you were watching that if you're watching this show. And we kid around with Pat about he didn't wear his green jacket. Pat, unbeknownst to us, actually does have a green jacket and is wearing it for us here on the show.
I had
there
to.
It is, Pat Evans.
I had to bring it in for you. It's a Jack Nicklaus Golden Bear collection from my grandpa, so it's an heirloom now. You know, it's a hand-me-down from my grandpa. And he is no longer with us, but I get to keep it, and it's great, and I love it. So
That's
there we
amazing. Go. That is amazing to start off the show. All right, so for people who are betting on the Masters in North Carolina, they're going to be watching our show right now and wondering if this story that you posted over at Legal Sports Report is going to come true. Like a lot of other states, not all, but most, they're looking to raise taxes on sports betting this year and next year. North Carolina is the state that we're set to discuss. What is the exact rate that they're looking to lift this by, Pat? And is this something realistic for that state?
Yeah, so North Carolina, of course, got online sports betting off the ground last spring. It's seemingly going well for them down there. They've got 8 operators, and it's bringing in almost $135 million in tax revenue, which is great. It's going to the UNC's a number of causes, but also going to UNC system, not UNC and NC State, but a bunch of other smaller schools, 13 smaller schools to be exact. It is currently at 18%, the tax rate, and lawmakers they've introduced legislation to move it up to 36%, doubling it. And that is kind of just, they want to bring in more money. You know, a lot of these states are looking at states like New York that has a 51% rate and saying, wait, we can make a lot more money off of this than we are. And I think a lot of that too is when a lot of these legislations were originally being talked about and passed, a lot of the estimates were very high. And, some of the states are not seeing the actual revenue come in at the estimated level. So they're saying, okay, let's bring it up a little bit. What's kind of unique about this one is it would increase the money going to the UNC school system. And it would also eventually send money to UNC and NC State, given a provision in there that those teams play at least 4 games against in-state UNC school system schools, basketball games, so to qualify for the extra money. So there is that. Is this realistic? I think anything can happen. We've seen multiple states increase the tax rate from Illinois and Ohio, which we'll talk about Ohio again in a minute. But then we've also seen a lot of tax rate proposals this year that have fallen short and haven't gained any traction. We saw Indiana, Michigan, Louisiana, little provisions that would raise the taxes. Those didn't go anywhere. Governor Wes Moore in Maryland proposed doubling the tax rate in his budget. It didn't go anywhere. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has also proposed in his budget to increase sports betting and online casino taxes. It's not gaining a bunch of traction and has actually faced a lot of backlash. So yeah, a lot of states are considering it or have considered it this year, and will continue to consider it in future sessions. But it hasn't gone most anywhere, and so it's going to be questionable if it gains any traction in North Carolina, which we've seen a lot of like extra auxiliary sports betting bills the last year in North Carolina, and it just hasn't. Most of them haven't even gone anywhere in a committee, so it'll be interesting to see if this one does move anywhere. But yeah, doubling the tax rate from 18 to 36, nothing to sneeze at. Certainly something to keep an eye on, though.
Yeah, and 36 not quite at 50 like some other places too, but we'll we'll keep an eye on that and see. How about in Ohio, where it's the opposite here, where they've been trying to raise taxes there now for quite some time, I think several months. Lawmakers as of now saying that this is not going to happen, but Pat, how things can change completely.
That's true. So yeah, to fully understand this, you have to go back to 2023 when Ohio launched, and you had Governor Mike DeWine immediately, like a couple months after it launched, going, hey, let's raise the tax rate from 10% to 20%. So he's already doubled it once. And then you enter this year, when he had proposed his budget in February, he said, let's double it again. Why not? 20 to 40%. And that was all to potentially fund the Cleveland Browns stadium construction and some renovations in other stadiums in the state. Lawmakers were even heading into this session kind of wary of that idea. There was a report that was filed by lawmakers last fall that said, no, that first doubling, the 10 to 20%, was premature. We needed to see what the market was going to do. We needed to see how much it was bringing in. That was premature. Then in December, in a late session, a lawmaker proposed reducing it back to 10%. That didn't go anywhere. But then a month or two later, you had DeWine proposing to double it again. So there's this back and forth between the legislator and the governor. You've got the lead finance committee in the House saying, no, we're not raising taxes. And that's what happened. The House stripped that provision from the budget, passed it. It could come back and reemerge, but I doubt it, based on kind of what the Republican lawmakers in Ohio are feeling about the taxes there. So again, a lot of states are proposing to hike their sports betting taxes. Ohio joined the list of basically saying, no, we're not doing that this year.
Yeah, got it. All right. We reported earlier in the week, Pat, some optimism for online sports betting maybe coming to Nebraska. Seems like some solid progress made, hopefully by the end of this year or next year. I think we got to get this on the ballot first in November, correct?
They would need to go to the ballot first. It is a really interesting tug of war we have there in the unicameral legislature in Nebraska. There are 3 final votes. It's past the first one with 27 votes. The final vote needs at least 30 yes votes. So you're in a kind of gray ground right now. Senator Elliot Bostar, who is the sponsor and is pushing this, says there were multiple people who were missing from the vote that would be yes votes. But there's another hiccup here that at least one senator has promised to filibuster this, the sports betting issue, because they don't like it. That would require 33 votes. So there's still a lot of whipping that needs to be done. A lot of people saying we need to get this done. There's some local publications that have talked to the senators who are saying, you cannot like sports betting if you want, but I watch people from my house go across the street or go across the border and bet in the fields in Iowa. So we don't like seeing our money going to different states. So I think that's the big argument there. Governor Jim Pillen is proponent of sports betting. He even pitched the idea last year as they were kind of trying to figure out how to come up with property tax relief for residents. He suggested sports betting could be used for that. So he's in favor. So the question is 3 votes going to be enough that Bostar supposedly has, or does he need 6 votes? It's going to be a tight race there in Nebraska before we get to the ballot, or if it can go to the ballot. But yeah, it could be there. And so we could have 2 states this year if, again, Hawaii's going to conference committee, and Hawaii just a dark horse. Nebraska kind of is as well to go online. But hey, possibilities, and that's why we watch these legislative ongoings.
Pat, it's awesome to see you, and great to have that jacket making its debut here on the show. Looking slick, nice. And we got a blue and a green here on the show today. I wonder what color's next. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks as always, Craig. I'll see you next week.
Right. Pat Evans with us from Legal Sports Report. All right, coming up next, it's time to find out how many people on Sunday afternoon were locked into their phone, their app, their streaming devices to watch Rory McIlroy capture one of the most epic finishes at the Masters that we've ever seen. For that, and also the very latest on what College Game Day may look like this upcoming season on ESPN, we'll bring in Simon Applebaum of the podcast tomorrow. Will be televised. And by the way, for those of you looking to stream all of our shows on our SportsGrid app, you can download it for free. Just take out your phone and scan that QR code right there. It's in the iOS store and Android as well. We'll be back with Simon Applebaum next. Fantasy baseball. Let's be honest, George. There's a lot of things antiquated about this game that we love. Man, like I would love to try some new little wrinkles here. And so for Sam's question here on the show, I think it's at least fair to ask the question, with catchers in fantasy baseball, and sometimes we're playing in 2 catcher leagues, why at this stage of the game? I have no idea. If you're still doing it, you're behind in the times. Buy or sell, catchers should get a fantasy point for throwing out runners trying to steal. So essentially awarding a defensive play to get an offensive point in fantasy. You gonna buy or sell this?
I mean, so this never even crossed my mind. I hate the catcher position because they get hurt so much. You play in a 2 catcher league, I don't know what to tell you. You know, it's like, what are we doing here? There are not 24, assuming a 12-team league, there are not 24 catchers to draft in baseball. There's just not. Although I'm the first person to tell you, Herrera's probably out there in a bunch of leagues there because we didn't see that power coming. Should he get a point? I think if you're going to do this, by the way, why a point? What are you throwing out? 1, 2 base runners a week? It's 2 points. Who cares? You know, should it be more? I mean, if we're going to do this, should we do it right? Should it be 5 points? You know, so I'd probably go that direction. If you're going to do it right. Give him more points. And by the way, then let's go further. You make an error, you're losing points. No one gets an error anymore. All right, if you get an error, it means you really screwed up. I was watching that Yankee-Pittsburgh game yesterday because I think it was, who cares? Somebody hit the ball hard to Isaiah Khalifa. It's a shortstop. He didn't have to move, but he dropped it. They called it a hit because he hit the ball hard with 3-hopper. Oh, hard hit, error. So let's do that too. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with this, but you need more than one. It can't just be a point that's meaningless. You need more than one.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. Still lots of discussion on the Masters finish on Sunday. What a huge win it was for both CBS and, of course, all the streaming networks that picked it up, Masters app as well. Let's bring in Simon Applebaum from the podcast. Tomorrow will be televised. We'll dive into that story and a whole lot more. But, you know, Simon, it was one of those where were you moments in sports. You know, we don't get a ton of those anymore like we used to. But watching that final round and the final putt and the playoff, to me, CBS had to just be giddy over the way that finished, regardless of you know, Rory missing or making or anything else. Just the drama that went into that last round.
It was one of the most dramatic final rounds of any sporting event, golf, basketball, baseball, you have ever seen, Craig. And in fact, when it was all over, 12.7 million people watched the final round on CBS or Paramount Plus. And at 7 o'clock, when you had that one playoff hole, nearly 20 million people were watching between 7 o'clock and 7:15 Eastern Time when the tournament was decided. It was an amazing tournament, and it was a very big gamble on the part of CBS because during the beginning of the final round coverage, when it looked like it was going to be a head-to-head duel between McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau, and then Joe Fulcher starting the second hole, CBS made the call, we are following Rory all the way. Never mind anybody else. And for those golf purists who thought, oh my God, they're not following Justin Rose in the big final round he had, including the great putt on 18, or Patrick Reed, the live golfer who had the incredible run down the stretch, including that eagle on 17, which was covered live on CBS. If Rory had faltered and did not win that playoff, CBS might be double talked by a lot of purists for what they did. However, it came off great. I thought the coverage was marvelous, both the camera work and Jim Nantz and Andrew Catalan and everybody else involved. And then, as a bonus, you saw what Rory did when he broke down in tears after he made that winning putt in the playoff. And from then until he got to Butler Cabin, the pictures and the sound told the story. And the CBS director said to Jim Nantz after he made his big comment, you know, the long wait is over. McIlroy has his masterpiece. It was like, be quiet. Let the story tell itself. And you saw for 7 or 8 minutes some of the best sports television post-match you've ever seen in your life. It was an absolutely amazing event. And then also, Paramount Plus also was a big winner because they got an exclusive window from 12 to 2 p.m. And I think that helped them get, if you broke down the Paramount numbers, their best golf event ever. And I think you saw more people tune in to Paramount Plus because of that than CBS. Also, it should be pointed out that the final round was the best TV result since 2018. So once again, the Masters showed, hey, when we want great drama, we got it.
It was amazing. I mean, truly amazing. And to see those numbers, 19.5 million. Wow. I mean, that's a monster number for sports. All right. So before we know it, Simon, college football season will be here again. I mean, here we go. I mean, we're already here in April. It's going to be the summer. And then August rolls around as college football time. Really interesting, sort of negotiation or back and forth with a key member of the ESPN broadcast group.
And that key member is Reese Davis, the host of College Game Day, both football and basketball. He also will be doing, I believe, some NFL coverage, NFL draft coverage next week on ABC, I believe. And Fox, unbeknown until reports surfaced last week, Fox was trying to get Reese Davis to come over and join our big noon college football pregame coverage, which was the 2-hour block, 10 to noon, which goes head-to-head with Game Day in that time period. And for a while, it looked like it might come close. However, Reese decided, hey, I got the better deal here with ESPN because I got a long-term deal with them. I cover college football and basketball. And oh, yes, we're the home of the college football playoff and the college football championship, and I'm part of that too. And that, I think, was the deal maker to keep him at ESPN. The big story now is what's going to happen with Rob Stone, who is the current host of college football coverage. He also does the World Cup. And the thing is, when Fox tried to nab Davis, they said, okay, not only will we give you Big Noon and college football, pregame, postgame coverage, we'll give you the World Cup. We'll give you college basketball. We'll give you other events. So the question now is, what is going to happen to Rob Stone, who has been a great performer in that lead announcing role for Fox? I have to think that with all the reports that came out last week about where he was in this, he may not be a very happy person. So I think Fox has got to mend some fences with him right now.
Okay, fair enough. I hate to see that sort of stuff going on in broadcasting. Savannah Bananas have been the hot ticket this spring, and it seems like they'll be the hot ticket in the future, Simon, and they're going to get their own little broadcast rights deal here, too. Who would have ever thought this a couple of years ago?
I know. This team has been around since 2018, and in the last couple of years, they've become the Harlem Globetrotters, not just baseball, but maybe any sport right now. The thing is, they make baseball fun. When you see them play, they interact with the fans, they do these dance routines, and they're a good team, and they are a legitimate team. This is not a scripted deal. By the last couple of years, they were on ESPN with 5 games, including 1 game during that ESPN Ocho period. Last year, they did 5 games on True TV. Now ESPN has them back, and they're doubling down. I mean, really doubling down. 10 games between the end of this month and midsummer. They're going to be playing in places like Boston, in Baltimore, 2 games, Washington, D.C. It should be a very big win for ESPN. I think the Savannah Bananas are going to become a very big summer highlight this year and for years to come.
All right. And the NBA, as we get ready for the playoffs, we'll see what the viewership is. Simon, I don't think it's alarming that their numbers were down slightly this year, but if this continues to trend, I think the NBA is going to have to sort of figure things out.
They are. I think this coming season is going to be very, very important post-playoffs because you got the changeover with Amazon coming in and, more importantly, NBC and Peacock coming in. Sunday night basketball in the wintertime on NBC, and you also have the Peacock doubleheaders. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the ratings go. By the way, if you throw in NBA TV, actually 1 million people were watching games there. So the numbers were down for the regular season 5%. So keep your eye on this coming season with all the changes with Amazon, with NBC and Peacock coming in, TNT coming out. If they get more numbers on NBC, that could be the big difference in terms of the numbers going up in the regular season next year.
And finally, Simon, we'll get more Caitlin Clark viewership. She returns to Iowa. It'll be a national broadcast.
Oh boy, it should be a lot of fun. Whenever Caitlin Clark goes, whatever the league is, WNBA or going back to her home team of Iowa in college, the numbers will grow. By the way, something else too, Paige Beckers is going to be part of Unrivaled next year, and that might help that league flourish in its second season on TNT.
Great stuff, Simon, as always. We'll see you next week.
You got it, Craig. Take care. Enjoy the weekend ahead.
We'll be right back.
Here's a tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread waters. I think that puts into a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength. We need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweights.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. It's time now to get into the very latest on the NFL draft. One smelly situation potentially on the tennis court, and we'll talk some Olympic baseball as well. It's time now to wrap up the show with some last licks. All right, let's get started with Travis Hunter, formerly of the University of Colorado and presently a player that's going to get taken in the first round of the NFL draft, probably with one of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft. Travis Hunter, for those of you unfamiliar, played at Colorado, wide receiver, and cornerback, and he's about to get drafted. But the team that drafts him should know one very specific thing about Hunter. He's going to be playing wide receiver. He's going to be playing cornerback. He's going to be doing both in the NFL, or don't draft him because he says he won't play. Yes, that is correct. Travis Hunter says, if you don't play me at wide receiver and cornerback, I'm not going to play in the NFL. My goodness. We've seen this happen before in the league. Sometimes they try and convert the player to just play one side of the field. But in this case, he says he's going to play both. He says, I've been doing it my entire life. I feel like I could dominate on each side of the ball. And Travis Hunter hopefully will get that opportunity to do so. But it will be interesting to see because not every team sees it the same way. But this is what you do in advance of the draft to make sure that you let the teams know and it's not a surprise. So I guess you shouldn't be surprised to see Hunter taken, and who knows where he'll end up. Maybe he'll go to Giants, maybe go to Cleveland, somewhere else. No one really knows. Seems a lot of mystery after the first pick of the NFL draft. All right, tennis player I've never heard of before as we move on and talk some tennis. Her name is Harriet Dart. Okay, Harriet Dart playing in a tournament overseas over the weekend had a very peculiar request. Her request was that the opponent that she was playing against from France, she went to the umpire and she said that her opponent needs to wear deodorant because she smells. This is true. Now, I will also add that she has since apologized for making that gesture and going to the umpire, and potentially maybe because of the fact that she just wasn't playing very well. Harriet lost the match 6-0, 6-3. Needless to say, I don't think this is a very good look here. And honestly, this is something that I think is going to carry around with her the rest of her career. Sort of sour grapes. Sour, no pun intended, being the case. Yeah, going to the ump and saying my opponent stinks, and no pun intended, probably not the best look for this tennis player named Harriet Dart. But we bring these kind of stories to you at the end of the show. All right, finally, Major League Baseball is letting players play in the upcoming Olympic Games. And the 2028 venue is going to be in the Olympics and are going to be playing at Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles. How about that? Now, here are some of the other venues that are going to be used. Swimming will be used at SoFi Stadium, which is, of course, the home of the Rams and Chargers. Basketball at the Intuit Dome. Gymnastics and boxing, U.S. Olympic Games at Crypto Arena is in L.A. Of course, you have track and field. I mentioned baseball at Dodger Stadium. And then you have soccer, which, by the way, is going to be played at the Rose Bowl. That is kind of crazy. So I'm looking forward to the Olympics coming up. And by the way, which players, after playing in the World Baseball Classic coming up here in 2026, who will actually play in the Olympic Games in Los Angeles? We'll see what kind of players they get to play. I mean, U.S. teams got to win one of these. All right. Frank, you got to chill, man. Okay, no one cares about the Yankees tonight. But there are a lot of games going on in Major League Baseball this afternoon. For those interested, I will be headed out to the Marlins Diamondbacks game, so you can catch me on the pregame show there while you're flipping around or streaming around on your TV if you're interested. But I would be more interested in sports betting if you're watching this network. So that means Smiley Kaufman coming up next at 12, and that's followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast, 3 o'clock Eastern, previews of the 2 games tonight in the NBA's play-in games, NHL action, and, of course, we've got plenty to discuss as we move forward to the NBA playoffs this weekend. In-game live game day and then Sports Rage tonight with Gabe, so make sure you stay on the grid for that. In addition, thanks to all of our great guests here on the show today. Simon Applebaum of the podcast tomorrow will be televised, Pat Evans of Legal Sports Report, and also Kyle Bonn of Sporting News. Also, don't forget, we've got 2 big games in the National Basketball Association. We could put these play-ins to rest. We're almost there, folks. Not quite. A couple more days. Miami Heat taking on the Boston Celtics. That is game 1. Sacramento Kings taking on the Dallas Mavericks. That will be game 2. Can the Dallas Mavericks salvage a season with a win tonight after everything that has happened to them? I'm sort of like rooting for them a little bit. Normally I root for the Kings because I think they always get a raw deal, but I'm going to kind of pull for Dallas. You know, I feel terrible for these guys in the front office of this team with everything that has happened for them. Maybe that's just me. All right. Have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow here on NewsWire.